Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're really excited to have you joining us this morning. We've got an awesome show lined up for you today. We're going to have on Ian Glomski, the owner of Vitae Spirits, and Lily DeRay, the owner of Ciela Creative. So two great entrepreneurs who combine creative talents and passion for what they do, which is what we love.
Absolutely. Creativity. We love
creativity and passion. We're all about it on Today Mañana. We're really excited to be here on the I Love CVille Network set. Thanks to Judah behind the camera. We are presented by Emergent Financial Services, and we are powered, of course, by Vitae Spirits, by GBS Financial Services, by Castle Hill Cider, by CVille Picnic, Aqua CVille Hand Car Wash, and Serious Credit Insurance. So just give a shout out to our partners that we really appreciate all that they do here in the community.
Absolutely. I like to say behind the camera. It's behind the cameras. I mean, it's like a whole bunch of cameras.
Oh, well, yeah, behind the camera.
I know that's usually what you used to say.
Behind the
but
entire
now it's like, exactly.
apparatus of I Love CVille is Judah Whittower doing his magic. Right. Doing his magic. Thanks to Johnny Ornelas, amigo del programa, for liking and sharing today's post. Be sure to like and share. Let us know if you have any comments, questions, things you want us to ask our guests, things you want us to say about our guests. We will only say the positive things, as always.
I'm really disappointed in you because you didn't tell people to go get the café con leche or anything like that.
It's such a warm day.
But still, I mean,
what are you going to do with the café con leche today?
So what? It's only.
Drink it. Nick's behind the scenes.
Drink it.
Besides, we have something else to warm us up today.
That's right, exactly.
Which will be fantastic. So, I say we just get right into it.
And we'll
do our financial segment later in the show.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so we're going to start off with Ian Glomski. He's the owner of Vitae Spirits, and he is back on Today Mañana. Ian, thanks for joining us again.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure.
Always fun to
He's sporting something new, too, I see.
He's got his new winter look to go with the winter cocktail.
Winter plumage is what I call it.
Winter plumage.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it. Love it. So, I have to start off, okay, what do you have with you today? What's new with Vitae Spirits?
Well, we always have something new going on. And I was hoping to have two today, but I had complications producing the second one, so I brought one, but this one will make you happy too. This one is pretty neat. It's a collaboration, and it's a collaboration with a couple different companies around here. It is called Barreled Champion Collab number 3.
Barreled Champion.
And this is number 3, so this is our third collaboration with Champion Brewery right here in town.
Okay.
And it's kind of a situation where they give us beer. And so I don't know if you know this, but whiskey is essentially distilled beer. So if you want to make scotch, you take barley,
that's true.
You add water to it, you add yeast to it, you ferment it, and then you put it through a still to turn it into scotch. Beer is the same thing, except for there's a little bit of hops added to it.
Which turns it into beer?
That turns it into like beer, drinking beer.
Interesting.
Ale, lager, stuff like that.
I did not know.
And so you can really just take beer, put it into a still, and what comes out is very similar to your general Scotch whiskey, but there's the influence of those hops in there, so you get all these aromas and everything like that. So what Champion does, they give us beer. This one happens to be a combination of 3 different beers that they make. It's their Malibu Nights, which is a double IPA with tangerine and hibiscus in it.
Wow.
Their Wheeze the Juice, which is a juicy IPA. And then their 5 Pillars Ale Lager. I can't remember which one, but those three. And we just went crack, opened all those cans, filled up our 250-gallon still, distilled it, and then we had what comes out is a colorless liquid, looks like vodka, but then we aged it in a Ragged Branch bourbon barrel from Ragged Branch Distillery over kind of in the Ivy area and everything like that. So really this is a combination of 3 different groups coming together into this collaboration. And I have to call it Barreled Champion Collab number 3 because if you start off with beer, there's no governmental designation for it. It's not technically whiskey because it started off as beer.
Right.
So I can't have the word whiskey nor the word beer anywhere on the label. So I had to come up with a fanciful name. So that's it. And I can't say aged because that only happens with whiskeys. So it's Barreled Champion Collab number 3.
Collab number 3.
Yep.
But that's a cool name. So is it before I get to yours?
That's fine. No.
Is it the barreling in the whiskey barrel that gives it the golden color?
Yeah. And so essentially any properly distilled spirit will come off the still looking like water, so a colorless liquid. If it has any color, it's from something that was done to it after it was distilled. Typically, 95% of the time, if it's brownish, that is the color of the wood coming out of the barrel going into the spirit.
Gotcha.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
had no
I
idea.
just assumed that it was something about the alcohol that created the color.
Well, and that's
that
what, since
makes
this went into a recently used bourbon barrel, there's probably a little bit of bourbon, actually, like liquid bourbon that's leached into this, but it's mostly the oak itself in the wood. So
That's interesting.
So my question is, how do you decide, I mean, what kind of barrels to use? I mean, is
Yeah.
that something you think about, or it's like, there's one right there lying on the street, let me grab it?
Yeah, yes. So yes, it's something you think about. The reality is that there's a default, and that is simply that one of the rules around what bourbon is, it can only be produced in a brand new charred oak barrel. That means they use it once, and they have to get rid of it.
Wow.
So almost every other brown spirit in the world that is brown is aged in ex-bourbon barrels. So Scotch, rum, tequila, all those things are by default in bourbon barrels. If you want to do something a little bit different, you've probably seen this in other products, sometimes they'll finish it in like a port barrel or a sherry cask or something like that.
Right.
But that's out of the ordinary, and they'll say that specifically on the label. But really, for a lot of spirits, the main thing going is a bourbon barrel.
Bourbon barrel.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
I did
Learn
not
something
know
new
that.
every day. That's what I love about this.
Every day. Oh, shout out to Utromani de Dos and Angeli liking the show today. Rosemary Postle watching the show. Kayla Cutler watching the show. Thanks so much for joining us. So, I mean, we have to...
Yeah. Should I crack it open?
Yes,
Oh,
the
sure.
show is
I
open.
can do
We
that.
have to try this.
So you got
It's the only reason I came today.
This is really, it's unusual in a good way stuff. Obviously, when we get invited to go to beer festivals, we sell a lot of this stuff. But you'll see, like, the aromatics from the hops, like kind of all the floral notes and everything like that, really come out in this whiskey.
Thank you.
It is a 90 proof bottling, so it's a little bit higher alcohol content, but basically my assistant distiller and I went through it, and we decided we liked the flavor the best when it's a little bit higher alcohol
It's a little
content.
higher
So,
level.
Cheers.
Cheers.
cheers. And you can smell that resinous, kind of the greenness and the flowers and everything.
Ooh. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I feel like I say
do.
this all the time, but this is one of my new favorite ones. This is very
Lining up with all the other favorite
Well,
ones.
it's
Love
kind
the
of funny
scent.
too because it's not a standard whiskey. It is a little bit more challenging in the cocktail zone. You kind of have to we have to work to kind of get good cocktails put together. It's not difficult, but it's not always that you can just sub it in where any other whiskey is. We're making this thing called the Hornet's Nest, which there's a really popular drink called Bee's Knees.
Yes.
Which is pretty popular. So this is like our version of that, where it's basically this stuff with honey and lemon in it. So it's kind of pretty straightforward.
I'd say it's a little stronger than a bee.
Yes.
It's a hornet.
This is kind of stuff then when you have a cold, that'd be perfect, right?
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah, with a
know,
little honey
it
and
is,
lemon
honey
in
and
there.
lemon.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Get that vitamin C, get
Exactly.
the coated throat
Coated
and
throat
everything.
thing, yeah.
It's funny, yeah, the aroma
Yeah, you can,
is very much like a whiskey with certain
That's
floral
right, yeah.
notes.
Yeah.
But then when you taste it, you very distinctively taste the hint of beer. Like it has
Yeah.
the flavor of beer, but of course without the sort of fizz, without the
Yeah, right.
carbonation that you
And
get.
it is obviously higher alcohol. But I do find, I think it goes really well in that Hornet's Nest cocktail because the hops come across to me as being pretty floral. And so having like a honey with the kind of the wildflower addition to that is a little sweetness too. So
It does. It has.
It does, yeah.
You know when you get like the hint, it's almost difficult to put it in words, but you know if you smell vanilla, you sense sweetness.
Yeah.
Even though if you went to go drink vanilla
Yep.
extract, there's no
Exactly.
sugar. Like
Yeah,
you taste
that
it.
is true.
So you smell this and you drink it and you get the illusion
Yep.
of sweetness.
And that's I have this conversation all the time with people because there is no sugar in this. Like part of the distillation process removes all sugar.
Right.
So if I didn't add it back, there's zero sugar. But I get people telling me, because I focus on rum mainly, and people are like, "Oh, I don't like it. It's so sweet." I'm like, it actually isn't sweet. Especially people that care about like their carb-free diets and everything.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's just a perception because like our brain interprets sugarcane aromas with sweetness,
As
but
Right.
there actually is no sugar.
That's
so,
right.
Which is the beautiful part, because as someone who is partial to the sweet cordials, and things of that nature, like you taste it and you get the intensity of flavor that hasn't been diluted by making it sweeter,
Yeah.
by adding sugar, right? But you get the sense of sweetness
Yep.
because of the flavors and the aroma that's in
Yeah,
it.
and so I teach a mixology, kind of like a cocktail making class, and the base of making cocktails is kind of all revolves around the fact that our body senses alcohol as a sweet thing. Like if you just drink alcohol, you don't sense it as savory or anything like that. It's really like a relatively sweet thing.
Interesting.
So that's why you tend to add sours like citrus juices or bitters or like tonic water type things to help offset that sweetness and give it a little bit of balance and everything. And so that's often what one considers when you're putting together a cocktail is balancing that sweetness with something else.
Never thought of it, but that's so true, right?
Yeah, I never thought of that. Because I mean, I knew you would do it. You would use the bitters to offset when you've added something sugary, like a sugar syrup. But it's interesting because it's true of most cocktails, even if there's no like sweet alcohol added, will still compensate with a bitter.
And that's it's pretty common to have sugar added in some way, simply because, as you've all probably known, if you have a really sugary alcohol, you don't taste the alcohol nearly as much.
That's right.
So sugar itself is good at diminishing the heat. But then if you add all that sugar, it can be pretty cloying. So that's where the bitters and the sourness comes in some shape or form.
But as you point out, even when there's no sugar added, you still will have cocktails that will add bitters and sours because the mind is telling you that the alcohol itself is still in the sweet category.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very true.
Now, have you? I know that you come up with kind of winter drinks. Have you used any of those in the winter drinks?
Yeah. So we only released this last Friday. So the Hornet's Nest is kind of what we have going on for the collab number 3 cocktail. But yes, we do have quite a few. We started our winter cocktails. We usually start around the solstice, so a little bit after kind of the holiday season.
Okay.
We started our cocktail menu for the winter, and there's lots of good. We actually have something that maybe you guys are familiar with. It's called Mama Wana.
Mama Wana.
Which is basic. I know it sounds like a racy name.
No, I like it.
No, but it's kind of like your working man's drink of the Dominican Republic. And so I learned about it when I was in the Dominican Republic in early December. And it's one of those things with a million versions of it. I would say the base is rum with wine and honey. But then there's like every family has a different recipe of herbs and spices that they add to it.
Okay.
And so many of those herbs and spices are not legal in the United States. so we kind of adapted a version for our tasting room, and that was kind of my contribution to the tasting room this year. But they have lots of aphrodisiac type things like sea animals and stuff like that too. But anyways, I was trying to kind of
how can I imitate this flavor legally?
So I was trying to capture that for a Charlottesville cocktail, basically. Something was allowed here. But we have lots of other kind of like, in the winter we tend to do kind of heavier, creamier, maybe warm. We have hot toddies and things of that sort going sometimes too. We always have specials going also, so.
That's fantastic. So what's the base of the Mama Wana?
So it's our golden rum.
Okay.
And then we use a little bit of a Cabernet Sauvignon wine. And then the honey and a bunch of spices in which I can't remember all of them right now. But
they're secret. They're secret. You mean?
Like
you certainly know
wine
what to tell us.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mulled wine. It's definitely.
But is it warm or it's just?
No, it's not. It's not warm. Okay. But the rum is a much larger component than the wine component.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hearty.
I would imagine. What are some other winter cocktails people can like be looking for?
Yeah, and so that's what we have. We have one that. What do we end up naming it? Because part of it is coming up with the recipe, but then like some catchy name
exactly.
And I think one of the ones I'm really enjoying is called Tiki's Revenge, because it's a little bit like a tiki drink, but it's not like a classic tiki drink, but it has components. So it has I believe. I'm certain it has orgeat, which is an almond, which is an almond syrup.
That is not easy to get a hold of.
And we usually make it in house. So it has orgeat and cream, and I believe this is a little bit weird for a tiki drink, but I think it has our Old Tom gin, which is a barrel aged. It's a brown gin, basically, which kind of makes it a lot smoother and everything like that too. I'll have to. My first time behind the bar is next Sunday, so I haven't actually been making these things recently, so I don't have them super fresh in my memory.
That sounds interesting.
But yeah.
I love the fact that you make your own orgeat. I think that's a special quality, like to be able to go to a bar and get a cocktail, right? That some of the ingredients like you can't find. Like you're not going to find orgeat made in house.
Absolutely not.
And honestly, like especially making in house, though, we have control over it. So we make pistachio orgeat, we make hazelnut orgeat. So like you can, because normally the typical is just almonds.
Almond, yes.
But we making in house, we have control over all that stuff, and kind of basically our orgeat is just some nut based syrup. And we'll say, because it's weird, we'll say pistachio orgeat or hazelnut orgeat or something like that if that's actually what we're using. So,
just a slight change of the flavor to do
it gives us control, but also like to some degree too. It's also like it's more cost effective to do it ourselves. Also, because like buying a retail bottle on a per serving basis is much more expensive than us doing it ourselves. And then we have, like I said, I like the control aspect of it. So.
And I love the creativity. You can do it with different nuts and see what that does to the flavor.
Yep. Absolutely.
And how it affects the drink.
We did have a peanut butter and jelly cocktail about.
Really? Peanut butter and jelly?
I was very skeptical because it's a situation where we all come in with our ideas, we build them for other people, and I was very skeptical of it. But TJ, our director of tasting room operations, this is one of his babies, and it has peanut butter. It was actually, so the alcohol was a toasted sesame seed infused rum. So that added to the peanut butter, get really nuttiness. But then we had grape jam and shook it all up together. It was a really good cocktail. I was
That's gotta be
surprised.
interesting.
I know.
I mean, I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yes,
that would be one.
It was
for you.
And it was very like, it was like a little bit like a meal type thing too, because that's all the nuts in there are pretty heavy duty.
So I can skip lunch and just have that. That's what you're telling me.
That was our intention. Like, no solid food needed.
That's right.
Just one of those. And that's on our website. We have basically every cocktail we've produced is on our website, and people can look it up
and see it. Interesting.
Yep.
I love that.
And the beauty of winter is you can do, like you said, those heartier ones, like the cream-based ones, the
Yeah.
ones that are I feel like in some ways they straddle the edge between a drink and dessert in a sense.
Yep.
That you can enjoy they tend to have a little sweetness added to them, something thicker, almost syrupy. So you really just get to enjoy the whole experience.
Yeah.
So this is what's great. I mean, so we talk about creativity. We're talking about creativity before, right? And so here we are, not only creating new drinks, right, but also coming up with the name, which is really, it almost got two sides of the brain working for you. One is you have to think about how does this mix together, and the other one is like what words do I put together to make this attractive, right? So it's that somebody says, "Well, because I'll be Mama One, that's something I drink just because I like the name." You know what I mean? It's like I don't know, it just sounds good, right? It's just like come on.
Well, that's honestly sometimes because I often go back and kind of see what sells, and I think the name is a good portion of what people order. If we get a good name on it, that one will have an extra bump up in terms of sales and everything.
I would think so, because you go in there, really at first glance you don't have a clue what's in it, right?
Yeah.
But you see the name, it's like, wow, that sounds good. Let me try that, right?
One of my favorite ones from last season, from the fall, was Oolong Rouge. It was oolong tea. It was an oolong tea based drink that we made, and it was red, it had hibiscus and stuff like that. But that's why it's called Oolong Rouge, which I thought was a great name.
That's one I like too.
You would drink that one as well.
Memories,
And it is just that little mix of things. I love that the process is so collaborative.
Oh yeah,
it's you, it's TJ all working together and the others to work together to just share ideas and get things to.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like a life philosophy or not, but I think it's absurd for anyone to think that they know everything. So I mean, especially as a business manager, tapping into everybody's talents that you have available to you is the best way to get the best products in the end. If you kind of set your ego aside and just like whatever's best is best, and that's the way to go. So
exactly. No, and I think it's one of those special things about entrepreneurship, being a small business owner. I think there's an impression that it's a do it alone kind of art, and not to say that the buck doesn't stop with the entrepreneur, but entrepreneurship really is, though, it requires collaboration.
Absolutely.
You cannot be a one-man shop, like completely. You get completely burned down. It would be impossible. There are certain businesses where one person cannot do it all. So the beauty of entrepreneurship is you're choosing who to work with and how to work with them.
Right.
And you're cultivating those connections and those collaborations so that the best out of it, because you as the entrepreneur are saying, I'm seeing this talent and I can be the one to say, you know what, I'm going to give you this opportunity to use that talent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good place to
And
be
you
in.
learn from each other, right?
Mhm.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and the idea also sometimes is to have a talent that you realize you just don't have that particular talent, but now you're blending two talents together, and what comes out is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, speaking of collaboration, I mean, we have one here,
Yeah.
but I know there's another one coming up because there's going to be a neighborhood harvest pop-up.
Yeah, and so Neighborhood Harvest is really neat. I didn't know much about them until they got in touch with us. It was a farmer friend that connected us. And so they're kind of a growing organization. I believe they started actually down in the Tidewater area, and they just kind of started getting a footprint in Charlottesville. But it's a little bit like a CSA. Do you know what a CSA is? It's community-sponsored agriculture.
Yeah.
And I'm part of it, but like, so at the beginning of the growing season, you like give a farm a deposit, and that buys a portion of their production through the whole year.
Right.
Neighborhood Harvest, though, is almost like a aggregator. So they basically have a relationship with lots of different farms, whether it be produce, whether it be meat, or whatever, and then they bring it to your home. So it's a little bit kind of like one of these, I guess, COVID-induced to some degree,
It's kind of
home
a
delivery
produce
services.
delivery.
But it's all from local farms in a sense. So they're a little bit of kind of like the aggregator of the local agriculture and things of that sort, bringing it to you. And so they're basically doing a pop-up in our tasting room downtown, and they're basically going to be coming in with little kind of boxes, like kind of the vegetables and things of that sort, as well as kind of going to be talking to people about what kind of their philosophies
do.
are and everything too. So
That's fantastic.
No,
So
that is.
February 19th,
Yep,
I
that's right.
believe it is. So
Yep.
you can go in there, you can see what they're doing, you can have a cocktail.
yep, absolutely.
While you're at it.
No, because
And-
cocktails use a lot of agriculture, whether it be fruits or whatever. So
That's true, and I know you're big on having those connections
Yeah.
and ways to get local ingredients, interesting ingredients that you can then
Yep.
use, not just in your cocktails, but in your, I mean, the conifer is coming to mind, but in your spirits as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like, whether it's be making syrups or we've used carrots in cocktails. We've used rhubarb in cocktails. We've used lots of different types of produce in things we do. So
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That is
I
interesting.
just kind of for the other day I had some, and it's just funny because it reminds me of Christmas. Don't ask me why.
Does.
But I was having a piece of cheesecake. I want something else with this, and so I had a little bit of conifer. I saw it, smelled it, and it just felt like Christmas again. I said, well, this is great. Every time I have Christmas, I just take some conifer.
yep.
Christmas all year long.
All year long. That's right. Exactly.
Olfactory memory is one of our
Yeah,
strongest
it is.
memory
Absolutely.
true.
Yeah.
joggers.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's
And I
true.
think that's one of the special things. I mean, it's one of the things I most appreciate every time you come on and we taste something new, because your spirits have a very unique aroma to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about the taste. There's a very strong scent that that you just, I mean, I could sit there and just smell it
Yeah.
the whole time, which is you don't often get. There's a lot of things you can get in an ABC store that the taste is good, but I'm not going to smell this because I already know what it smells like. I've
Yeah.
smelled it a zillion times.
Yep.
But there's always something interesting and beautiful about the aroma that I think paints the experience for you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is a weakness on my part, but I'm very aroma focused as a distiller. So maybe that means I'm neglecting the palate or whatever. But really my nose is my major driver for the decisions we make
Interesting.
at the still and kind of in the formulation and everything too. So
But I think it comes well. It's-
But frankly, I think that is the most important thing, because think about it. When you have wine, first thing you do is
Yep.
you smell the aroma, right, and then you taste it, right,
Yep.
and if you don't do that, I mean, if you hold your nose, drink wine,
Yeah.
you don't taste anything.
Well, it's certainly
So
your
that's
first.
the most important part.
It's your first exposure to what it is.
Exactly.
Is going to
Yeah.
be from your nose.
Yeah.
So it's a
So-
good place to start.
Yeah,
Yep.
a
And it's
great
going to be
place.
those finer, which I think is where these spirits really excel, is the finer flavors, in the sense of the tongue can give you by itself sweetness, sour, bitter,
Right.
strong. The nose is what's going to
Yeah,
give you
it's
the
so much more
finer
all the other,
flavors.
everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But that is fantastic. So I'm just always love having you on. Just the things we learn, the things we talk about, the fun time we have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a blast. So I mean, the key things. I mean, we have this new collaboration. So
Yep.
that will probably go quickly.
Yeah, and
I
we
would
didn't
imagine.
have that much of it. We only, I think 37 gallons came out of the barrel. So I think we have 200 bottles or something like that, which probably means it's a couple months worth. Like
Yeah.
we sell out of the collabs before we have a new collab ready to go. So
I would imagine. So you don't want to waste any time.
yeah,
That's
heading
right.
out, trying the hornet's nest.
Yes,
I have to
that's
go
right.
try the hornet's nest there. Check out the winter cocktails. And
Go
be
on
sure
February
to-
19th.
Go on February 19th.
Get some mama wanna with
can-
some.
Yep.
Check out the vegetables.
yeah.
Exactly.
And we have a sold out Valentine's Day going on this
do
Sunday
you?
too.
All
Yeah,
right.
we did a collaboration with Iron Poffles, Catherine.
Iron
Oh,
Poffle.
yeah, so we have like 3 cocktails with 3 kind of Poffle desserts, tres leches
Oh.
dessert and a pavlova dessert, and so.
You can't say tres leches in front of him.
Said it in front of-
But it's sold out, so you'll have to wait for another.
I'll have to wait for. I'm gonna February 14th next year.
Yeah, right.
Book it.
and then they won't have tres leches.
They won't have the citrus. So Ian, thanks so much
Absolutely.
for joining
Thanks
us.
for having me.
wonderful.
Appreciate it.
Again, I always love coming down.
Same here.
Pleasure.
Love having you on. Oh, what a blast.
Oh, this is always
Really
good.
enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
this is always
Little
good.
shout out Jeff Camrath watching the show today. Thanks for watching, Jeff. Just always a blast. You can sense the passion,
Oh yeah.
sense the experience, the talent. It all comes together.
No, like I said, I love like we talked about creativity. I love that creativity.
Yes.
The idea of just creating something new that is, and I assume right throughout the process there's some things it's like, this didn't really come out as good as we thought, or this is better than we thought, so that will happen. But just the to have the reason I marvel at it is I just don't have that type of creativity, right? To think about, let's put all this
Got it in
together.
a different sense. Different sense.
Yeah.
When it comes to
Maybe.
creating
in a numbers,
portfolio,
in
you
a
have
numbers sense, yeah,
creativity.
exactly. But you know what I mean. In that, the other side of the brain is like really kind of shallow on that. So I really appreciate it when people come in. It's like I'm just awed by it. So, and we have somebody coming in here that's smiling and more creativity,
Another
just
creative
flowing right out of that
person
body.
is joining us today.
Hello.
So creative that her company is called Ciela Creative, and her name is Lily Garay. She's the owner of Ciela Creative. And Lily, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks
I
for coming back.
can't believe you put me next to this guy,
I know,
Xavier.
that was Judah.
You're lucky. Come on.
Just teasing.
That was Judah. He's like, I'm gonna put
Judah
everybody
just
next
loves
to,
you and me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put
I
everybody
have
next
one
to-
question. I know because I know you have like a list of questions always for
Dímelo,
Lady.
dímelo.
Pero just una pregunta. Ciela. So I read it and I thought he made a mistake. It's probably cielo. So tell me what is Ciela versus cielo? I think of heaven, right? But you said
Right.
Ciela, so there's got to be a reason for it. Tell
I
me.
know. I wish I was artsy enough to be like, oh, well, I was trying to create my own like female tense of the word sky and heavens. But my name is Lily Graciela Garay. Entonces, saqué la gra. So I took out the gra part of my middle name, and it's Ciela.
Ciela.
So yeah, Ciela Creative. Honestly, it's like the least creative name because a lot of creative companies or marketing agencies will do like their last name in creative, but it works. And I think
works.
I
it's
think in
beautiful.
2022, like people understand that when the name creative is in there, it means that there's some kind of marketing happening or art happening, and I'm happy to be part of that.
No,
Yeah,
well, it's great. Listen, it's a female heaven. I mean, I'm all for it. You know.
There you go.
Send them up there, and the guys go over there. We're all good.
Oh, you're terrible.
Keep it far apart.
Yep, exactly.
We can have some mama wanna, bro.
There
Oh
you
my
go.
God,
He's still
no.
on that. He's still on that.
Oh my gosh.
So Lily, tell
I
us a
don't
little bit
endorse that.
about.
I don't endorse that.
Tell us a little bit about Ciela Creative.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like I don't remember anything for some reason, but it's kind of funny because last time I was on the show, Alex said I was doing marketing services, and I was like, oh, I don't do any marketing services, and then I pivoted, and now I do. It's been really fun. So
He knew what you were going to do.
he did. He was
just-
kind of
yeah.
prophesying it.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
But basically, Ciela Creative is a true-to-the-moment content creation firm. And so what that means is that I'm creating content. Me and actually a couple other people now that are on my team. We're creating all the pieces that people need for their social media. And so I was finding, like, kind of like our previous guest over here, like people have this incredible... my analogy is always they have this incredible like drink, like a wine, but they just don't know how to put it in the bottle and they don't know how to label it. And so unfortunately, the only people enjoying it are themselves and their friends. But I know how to get the bottle and I know how to get the label. And so, yeah, no, we're not doing bottling services, but essentially
It's a metaphor.
we know how to help you package whatever it is your talent is, whatever your business is. And so I think a lot of people really struggle with social media. because I'm 25 and I grew up using social media, I just decided, I'm going to take that and create a business with it. I was freelancing for social media purposes for years. And then when I kind of took the summer to figure out, okay, where do I see my life going? What direction do I see it going in? And honestly, just kind of opening up my life in my hands to being like, you know what, God, like whatever doors open, I'm just going to trust that. That's what I'm going to do next. And honestly, a bunch of people started reaching out. As soon as I put on Instagram, like, hey guys, I'm starting to offer like photo services and video services, people immediately started reaching out and asking me to help with social media. So just kind of seemed like the next natural step. And it's actually been really fun. And my business has been growing, and I've been able to add people onto my team as freelancers as well. So it's been really, really fun and really rewarding.
Does the fact that you are bilingual, does that help you at all in the content creation, or most people just want it in English?
It's helped a little bit with some accounts, but it does, I haven't really been focusing too much. Charlottesville really is so small, and
of course,
most of my focus has been trying to help brands in Charlottesville. So, there hasn't been too many Hispanic Spanish speaking.
Not like we live in Miami, in other words.
Yeah, exactly. So I just have to use my Spanish, and I'm driving in the car talking to myself.
Exactly. To find
so don't forget. No te olvides, Billy, no te olvides. Yeah.
We'll practice a little today.
Perfect.
For sure. So I mean, when I hear the word content creation, I have to admit, sometimes my first thought is that what is that?
Yeah.
Because you say social media, you get this vague sense of, okay, posts, things, but to go deeper, what is the content creation part?
Yeah. So I think that's a super valid question, and content creating is something that's really a term that's come to the surface in the last couple of years. The same thing as influencing, same thing as metaverse. Like, these are all words that we didn't really
2 years
using,
ago, exactly.
Right? And so for content, what my business is doing photos, doing videos, and those are for branding. So it's not, I'm not really doing family pictures. I'm not really doing too many portraits unless it's for a business. My main focus is for artists. And so my heart, you guys know, I love music, and that's always going to be part of what I do and just my life. And so I would really love for Ciela Creative to eventually just have a focus on just artists and musicians. And so, just providing those kinds of services. I'm doing social media consulting. And then I have somebody that does graphic design, and we're also doing search engine optimization. So blog writing for websites. It's actually been really valuable to some of the people that I work with. And we're seeing people getting gigs, and it's been really exciting to see the fruit of that.
That is awesome.
So basically, it's a form of advertising, right? It's promoting somebody's product, but as opposed to just put it in a magazine or a newspaper, you're doing it through obviously social media, which is Instagram, Facebook, and all those.
So we're creating all those pieces that are really hard for people to create. A lot of people have such a hard time making reels on Instagram or TikToks, or getting the pictures for their products taken. And so, we want to help with your branding process and your advertising.
Yeah, that is the challenge. I know a lot of times, you might know because you've used Facebook or Instagram how to post, but it's sitting there saying, how do I get this picture to look good? Or how do I don't just want to take a video with my phone and say, okay, that's good enough, and do that. How do I get what's going into the post, going into the social media to look good? Because and why would you say that's important? Because I know there's great value in that. I think entrepreneurs can sense it, but what are some of the ways you've seen that tangibly expressed?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I thought of was it's just really overwhelming. I think you have this incredible business idea, a great business that you want to run, but it's just so overwhelming to think oh my gosh, now after I've spent 8 or 10 hours on my product, now I have to go on social media and create this stuff. And I've talked to so many of my clients, that's what they struggle with. And so, but I do think it's important. Nowadays, we're talking about online sales. We're talking about, I've seen some of my clients and even myself, all of my gigs usually come from Instagram. Right now, 100% of my work is from Instagram. Wow. And that's incredible to me.
That is amazing.
That's just because I've consistently put myself out there, and not incredibly personal detail of my life, but I've just posted the things that I'm doing. And I think like one thing people don't realize it is that, well, people know it's a highlight reel, but I think some people can get stuck on the fact that it's a highlight reel, where I'm like, let's use the fact that it's a highlight reel and just focus on that. And you can still be authentic, you can still be honest doing that, but you know, I think there's so much value in creating it because there's a whole market that you could be missing of, you know, clients just because you're not online. And there are people that won't even, you know, go to something because there's nothing online about it, or, you know, there's no reviews, there's nothing telling you how to use this product, or, you know, people don't like discomfort. And so, you know, I try hard. My whole thing is true to the moment because I want people to know, like, what you're seeing online, like, this is a real thing, you know, but, like, we're not going to overly touch it up. We're not going to make it, you know, looks amazing online and it sucks in person. But it's just so important, I think, to put yourself out there in those ways, even if what you're mostly doing is working in your community. And so I think, like, differentiating your account between, am I trying to become like an influencer account, or am I really trying to hone in on my clientele in this area and not worry about, I think people get worried about, I have to have 2 million followers and 100,000 likes and all these things, where it's like, well, actually, you're really just building an online portfolio. And that's what people want to see. They want to see consistency. They want to be able to trust you. And so this is just another way to build brand trust. And so Ciela Creative is going to help you make that look really good.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so much now that I think the social media and the website, they're almost like verification in the sense of, in other words, you may not necessarily sell, like the website may not sell someone. It's not like someone's just thinking from financial advice. No one's going to go to a financial planner website and say, because I saw this website, now I will hire them. But if you don't have one, there's sort of a sketchiness to it.
Red flag.
There's no confirmation that even exists.
There's no confirmation that they even exist.
Exactly. But it is a huge value to have an online website where, I mean, you guys, Alex and I have talked, and you guys are doing so many of the things that we've talked about, like creating that video content, writing blog posts, doing the newsletter. All those things are not only building your trust with people that aren't your clients yet, but it's telling me as a customer, because I mean, I am one of your clients too, it's telling me that you care enough to keep updating me. You're continuing to build that brand trust. And yeah, I think people can miss the mark on that because they focus too much on one or too much on the other. And, you know, it's sometimes all you need is to just talk with somebody for an hour and get some consulting, and it really clears things up and smooth things out. And I love talking to people and to be able to do that. I think that's
to know
really
what you
helpful.
don't know.
Exactly. Or like just get it out of your brain, you know.
We're in the same business. We like to talk to people, and she likes to talk about one thing. I like to talk about something
There you
else.
go.
It's all different.
There we go.
Oh, we got some people watching the show. We got Tere FDZ is watching the show today. Bill McChesney watching. Anna Bashara is liking the show. Lucrecia Morales liking the show. Thanks for watching us today. Let us know if you have any questions. Buenos dias.
Yes.
I mean, we should do a little bilingual.
We should.
We have to.
We
So, I mean,
should.
Let's get her nervous. I mean, she's too happy and go.
that'd probably get me more nervous and not have to
I know.
practice my Spanish.
Let's get Alex nervous. Let's get Alex.
Let's do it.
This is why I write down my questions in Spanish. Okay. Primera pregunta es, ¿por qué es importante para un negocio pequeño, una marca o un empresario tener content creation, tener creación de contenido?
Yeah. Como ya hemos estado hablando sobre esto en inglés, pero es tan importante crear, oh my gosh, how do you say portfolio in Spanish?
Portafolio.
Really?
Sí.
Sí.
Wow, that's so easy.
Portafolio.
Es muy importante crear un portafolio, por Instagram, por Facebook, por tu sitio web, para que gente puedan empezar a confiar en tu marca. Estás creando una historia, ¿verdad? Y cada cosa que tú pones en el internet está contando esa historia. Y hay tanto valor en lo que estás haciendo. Y tal vez tú tienes un producto increíble, pero si tú no lo estás poniendo por internet, de verdad no va, puedes. Oh, how do you say you could miss out on some really awesome customers?
Hay ciertas miss out.
Bueno, hay menos ojos mirando
Sí,
tus
hay menos
cosas,
ojos,
¿verdad?
por lo menos, sí.
Y por lo menos en este año que estamos viviendo, en esta edad que estamos viviendo, todo está en el internet. Y si tú quieres que tu negocio no sea en el internet, está bien, pero eso quiere decir que tú vas a tomar otras, avenidas.
Sí,
Adelante,
sí.
Y lo que nosotros queremos hacer, pues mi compañía, lo que estamos haciendo es tomando fotos, tomando videos, ayudándote a escribir, poner palabras a lo que estás haciendo, porque lo que ocurre es que muchas personas no tienen las palabras ni para poner en el sitio web, ni para poner en el internet. Y tú no debes estar preocupado por eso. Tú tienes un negocio, tienes un producto, entonces, aun si no es conmigo, debes de encontrar a alguien que pueda ayudarte a estar en el internet, porque estás creando esa trust. Oh, I already said it. Esa confianza en tu marca. Yeah.
Sí.
No,
Yo sería muchas veces con respecto a un empresario latino.
Sí.
Muchas veces yo creo que hay la idea de que, bueno, ya tengo mis clientes,
Sí.
ellos saben de mi marca, ellos saben de mi tienda, ahora, ¿por qué necesito tener una presencia en línea si
Sí.
ya tengo mis clientes?
Ya, si tú ya tienes tus clientes y no estás preocupado por nada de eso, no debes estar en línea. Si es algo que tú piensas que para mi negocio esto no que no va a funcionar, pero no va a traer mucho más valor, porque ya yo estoy ocupado y no tengo más espacio para más clientes. Está bien. Yo pienso que si no es auténtico a lo que tú estás haciendo, no lo debes de hacer. Pero si es que tú quieres crear esa presencia en línea, es importante empezar, poniendo cosas y es todo eso. So, no creo que es para todos, no es para cada negocio, pero sí puede ayudar. Y cuando tú ganas, algo por la ciudad está diciendo, Best of CVille 2022,
Sí.
y la gente van a buscar y no hay nada, por lo menos tenga un sitio web.
Sí.
O algo así, So, no que estás falleciendo si no tienes nada en línea, pero sí puede ayudar mucho. Y he visto compañías crear una marca increíble solo por poner lo que ya están haciendo. Yo pongo todo lo que yo estoy haciendo con mis clientes si es que me han dado permiso.
Sí.
Y yo ahora mismo no estoy tomando más clientes, por lo menos por 2 o 3 meses, pero todavía estoy creando mi marca, todavía estoy creando esa confianza con las personas que me están siguiendo por lo nuevo, los jazz que me están siguiendo,
Sí.
No, bueno, como dijiste antes, primeramente, los clientes que tú tienes también, que uno tiene, o sea una tienda o un restaurante o lo que sea, es importante para ellos también saber que tú tienes una marca.
Sí.
Y el estar en el internet es importante porque saben más de ti y sabes que todavía estás funcionando bien, que las cosas andan bien. Yo creo que es importante. Y segundo, aunque uno tenga un cierto nombre de clientes y uno dice estoy bien, uno nunca sabe, un cliente se puede ir, otro puede fallecer, lo que sea, ¿no? Es bueno saber que hay posibilidades que en el futuro también vas a tener más clientes, ¿no?
Sí.
Y si quieres crecer tu compañía, la creces, pero sin duda como dije, antes era el periódico o las revistas y hoy día, si tú no tienes una presencia en Instagram o Facebook o LinkedIn o los otros que hay por ahí afuera, pues estás perdiendo algo, ¿no?
Sí,
¿no? Y
yo
es
creo que
una historia.
Sí, es una historia y lo bonito es que tú puedes imprimir las cosas que estás poniendo en el internet, hay una compañía que se llama Chatbooks y te puedes poner todo en un libro bien fácilmente y,
No sabía.
yo creo que especialmente los hispanos, yo pienso, tienen una forma de contar historias por la noche que es tan bonita, ¿verdad? Y yo pienso que es lo mismo con tu compañía. Esto te está ayudando a contar la historia en una manera diferente. Y,
Claro que sí.
And the other thing, right, just to switch a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So the other thing is, when you think about the Hispanic community, right, so especially those that come from, from whatever country they came from and they come here, right? Their language is Spanish, right?
Yeah.
So they're able to speak and write in Spanish very well, but now they have to translate that into English, and it's very difficult. I mean, it's very difficult to have the control of both languages in such a way that you can write well in both languages.
Exactly.
So to have the ability to go to Lily and say, here's what
I wanna
here's what I
express
want to
this
say
poetically.
this, but I
Yeah.
want to say it in English, right? And I want to promote my product. I mean, it's so valuable to have somebody that can do that.
Yeah, and even still, even if they're only speaking one language, somebody's only speaking one language, you can write everything in that language that you know, and Instagram does auto-translate.
Whoa, I
You
didn't
know?
know that.
And so even though it's not perfect,
Yeah,
if you want it to
sometimes
it's not
it
it's
just
not great.
doesn't quite say what you want to say, though.
Exactly, but you're still building that brand
Right.
trust. So
Yeah.
estamos diciendo que aun si tú solo hablas en español, debes de poner todo tu contenido en español. Y, hay cosas que pueden traducir eso hoy en día, pero por lo menos estás creando algo en línea.
Yeah.
I always get really inspirational because I'm like, there's so many people that have said really awesome things to me that have really helped. But I think it's just a matter of doing it. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes to show your face online or to share a story or to do whatever it is. But that's just life. Life is uncomfortable. Yeah. Starting your business, I'm sure, was not the easiest thing in the world, And to continue, running your business is not easy. No es fácil tener un negocio.
No.
And so this is just another one of those little hurdles as a business owner, that creating content online is just part of that nowadays. Doesn't have to be, but can be a really huge asset to you and to your company.
Absolutely, loving it,
Yeah.
loving it. Jackie Slusher watching the show today. We've done international. I always love when we go international. So thank you,
Same.
Caravello Vincenzo from Italy, watching us
wow.
today. We have gone completely international. Probably not the international you were thinking.
Wait, buongiorno, right?
Buongiorno. Yes.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, Caravello.
My
We're
little
gonna have to
quarter
speak
Italian.
Soon we have to start speaking Italian too.
Ciao, ciao.
Buongiorno, Vincenzo. Thank you for watching the show today. Last question. I always want to ask this to someone like people who are good at content creation, who have that experience. Is one of the challenges I know a lot of entrepreneurs have is you want to put content out there.
Yeah.
And you want to grow your following, but you want to do it in such a way that it doesn't seem stilted or forced. So how do you do that organically and naturally grow your following? What tips would you have for people before we go?
Yeah. This is one of my favorite questions, and I think I touched on it a little bit earlier in the show. People always assume that a good social media following means you have millions of followers, and that is just not the case. You're going to grow organically by posting those things online, by building that brand trust. But I only have 5,000 followers, and all of my business, I'm full-time doing Ciela Creative. Mm-hmm. But those people that are following me are the ones that are trusting me in order to build their business, to work with them. And those people have followed me every time that I've created a new Instagram account or done a new venture. The people that have been following me for years are pretty much always following my new accounts, liking my things, because they are believing in me and buying into is not the phrase I want to use, but they believe in the story that I'm telling, and they want to support that. And so I think growing your following organically, it's definitely going to be just being real, being authentic, I think creating beautiful content always works. I mean, I think there's a place for both the casual Instagram pictures that are taken on an iPhone or whatever, and then there's a place for beautifully curated images. They can coexist. And if you're really concerned about, if you want to create more of an influencer style account and you want to get those big numbers of following, then there are strategies to do that. I mean, there's not just search engine optimization, but you can collaborate with giveaways. Is one of the biggest ways to grow your account. Yeah. So when you partner with another account and let's say you do 3 or 4 accounts and you're all pitching in for this gift basket, we're going to give away a $25 coffee gift card, and you brand it really nice. This is a Charlottesville local gift basket, and is it Vitae? or
Vitae.
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 We're gonna include a Vitae gift card or like a bottle of I can't remember. I'm
The
so sorry.
champion collab
you know what
number
I'm
3.
saying,
There you
though?
go.
But so you're
It's new, so it's okay.
It's new.
but then your buy-in for that giveaway is okay. We'll follow these 4 accounts, and you're automatic, and then leave a comment, and you're automatically entered to win. And so you're creating. Well, all these people are like, oh, well, these are all Charlottesville local businesses. So yeah, of course I want to enter this giveaway because I'm going to learn more about Charlottesville. I'm going to find out more businesses, and I have potential to win like all these really cool items. Like, of course I'm going to join in. And so once you have those followers, right, you want to retain, and the way you're going to retain is consistent posting. And then another huge way we're seeing people grow followers right now is through Reels. And so Reels are those 30 second to a minute videos, or under a minute videos, of people just talking or doing something funny, or basically you're creating entertainment.
Exactly.
But there are really cool ways to do that depending on the brand, and it's definitely worth sitting down and talking with a social media consultant about the different trends. I mean, there's new trends every single day with Reels and TikToks and everything. But there are definitely ways to grow your following that's very organic. You're not buying followers. Using those 30 hashtags, or focusing on 10 or whatever it is, like finding those hashtags that are working for your company.
Right.
And there's so many different little strategies that work. And even if you don't have the budget to talk with a social media consultant, I always say to people, like, take 2 hours a week, do some research, and write it down in a spreadsheet. And just work on it that way. It doesn't have to be this thing where I'm doing 10 hours every single day working on my social media. It can be as easy as I'm going to sit down for an hour and write out all my tweets for the month. Or I'm going to take 2 hours and I'm going to take the pictures and videos and you can schedule on Instagram and Facebook on a desktop through the Facebook app.
Wow.
Whoa.
So it's becoming easier and easier for businesses to promote their products and to do all those things. So, I mean, there's so many different ways where you don't have to buy ads, you don't have to buy followers, but you can grow organically. But just
awesome.
remember that those followers you have, like, keep building trust with those ones, because those are the
You wanna
ones that are
keep
going to be
those.
supporting your product.
It's the committed, better to have an engaged, committed, smaller group than a very large one that has no commitment to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Those are great
Yeah.
tips.
Yeah,
Those are
they
great
are.
tips.
Fantastic.
So, I mean, Lily, before I let you go, where can people find Ciela Creative, get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me. So I have a personal Instagram, which is Lily Graciela Garay, with Lily Lily, Graciela Garay, on Instagram or on Facebook. And then Ciela Creative is the Instagram and Facebook username. And then I'm actually working on the CielaCreative.com. I know it's so bad. I told Alex I have to finish it before I come on the show, and I've just been busy working on other people's stuff. But I do have a website, CielaCreative.com, and there's at least a contact page on there.
And you can see some of the great work you've done there.
Some of it, yeah. There's a portfolio on there. But most of my this is terrible, but most of my portfolio is on Instagram because that's where all my clients are.
Sure.
So
makes sense.
it makes working
Which
on the
makes sense.
website. I keep putting it on the back burner, but
Because you are,
You can
which
still
I think in
contact
itself
me
is
on
another
there.
good tip, like go where your people are.
honestly, because I've tried breaking out on TikTok and stuff, and it's just not even worth my time right now. I'm still building content on there to create that trust, but I try to focus more of my time on Instagram, and whereas TikTok is working amazing for my sister, but it's that comparison game. When you start comparing yourself to other people's businesses and, that kind of thing, it's not always great. It's not authentic, and it comes across as inauthentic online as well.
Interesting.
So
That is
yeah.
interesting. That's always great advice, and always love having you on.
I
So
love
much
being
fun.
on here.
Always love
Thanks
fun.
for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
CielaCreative.com, as well as Ciela Creative on Instagram and on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Lily Graciela.
And Lily Graciela
Garay.
Garay is the
Garay.
personal.
Garay.
Garay is the personal.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just love the passion.
Oh,
love having
it's always
on
great. It's always
these
great.
great guests. I mean, I know you wanted to touch briefly.
Well, so much fun stuff,
We're having
right?
so
That's
much
happening
fun,
in the
I
marketplace.
know.
That's right, exactly.
That,
I
but
mean,
we
it's just,
wanted to touch briefly on some market news, which is, market economy news, basically, that
well, the inflation rate.
Inflation rate hit a new
and
high
I think,
again.
and I think we talked about it, I guess, a few weeks ago, right? We talked about the fact that the consumer price index, right, and the producer price index, which the producer price index last time was over 9%, the consumer price index.
And we kind of
which
predicted that
exactly, it will
consumer
go
price
up.
would
So,
continue to
so
go
the
up.
consumer price index was, I think, 7.5 this morning, right? So indicating that inflation is not waning at this point, but rather going up. And so, that's become an issue. That's become an issue for, your regular, family that
very
has to,
friendly.
consumer, I mean, the regular family that has to put
As
food
well
on
as
the
that's
table.
probably your regular small business owners. I mean, now
Especially.
your goods that you have to, especially if you're in a cost of goods sold business, so you're mainly goods rather than services, a lot of the supplies you're using to create what you have out there have risen in cost. But as one of the things is that the core inflation, when you take out food and energy, which
Right.
are very volatile, it still went up 6.6%.
Exactly.
So, I mean, even if you take out two of the most volatile components of inflation, you still have 6.6% inflation. So, and that's affecting your supplies that you as the small business owner need to then pass on. You can't eat that
No, you
inflation.
can't.
Most small
Exactly.
business owners don't have a margin large enough to say, I'm just going to eat 6.6%.
Absolutely. And the
of
small
my
business
gross
owner, I
revenue.
mean, let's think about it. I mean, the small business owner are the ones that suffer the most because the large business owner just increases the price of their package, right? It gets going and they continue to obviously, make money, right? And the other thing was, obviously wages have been up. I mean, I think it's like up 4.4%.
But not quite the same
But
level.
if inflation is up 7.5 and your wages are 4.4%, you're still way behind, right? And the impact on the markets is something that I just want to quickly touch upon because
Which I think is important because I think a lot of people would see this number and get completely nervous and say, market's going to crash.
Yeah.
Rates are going to go up, inflation's up, market's going to crash. But I think you
I mean,
got some numbers show that obviously you can't predict these things, but it's not a foregone conclusion as you might expect.
exactly. I mean, certainly in this morning, at least before I came in, I know the market was taking it on the chin again because the number is very high, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. The impact on the markets initially is for the markets to begin to go down, right? But and I was reading both from Morgan Stanley and I forget the other firm that put some research out, but in the previous 5 rate shocks means that the expectation that the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates, right? Stocks went down somewhere between 10 and 15%. And stocks that were overvalued, and there was high valued stocks went down between 20 and 25%, and I think the highest was down like 26, 27%. You look at what happened in the market already this year, and we're almost there. I mean, almost we hit there before.
Well, we hit a minus
there.
10. We hit correction
I mean, we hit
territory.
there.
We pulled back a little, but we hit that.
And you look at the NASDAQ was down, 17, 18%. Obviously, we've come back a little bit. So my point is that, by the time you start thinking about what to do, the chances are too late. I mean, you don't want to then begin to sell your portfolio when it's down 10%, right? And then all of a sudden it starts going back up. And interesting enough, there was the other study was from Morgan Stanley that indicated that when the 10-year, the U.S. Treasury 10-year yield is 2% or below, right? The average return in the market has been 14 to 15%. Now, we are still there, all right? And whether or not the 10-year goes above 2%, and that doesn't mean that the 10-year hits 2.1%,
Suddenly
it's all
it's
over,
negative,
right?
exactly.
And second of all, one of the things that I always tell people is that, history is important. I mean, we learn by history, and all this data is good to give you a perspective that, and we always say that, it's not about timing the market, it's just being in the market for long periods of time, right? There are adjustments you can make to your portfolio to take advantage of circumstances in the marketplace that you say, gee, I think I should be in this sector of the market or that sector in the market. However, again, history is important, but we've never been in a time in history where the rate shock was, from 0 to something versus where it was before, right? So again, we're in a situation that even if rates go from where we are to 0 to maybe 2% in the short end, and that's a lot.
That would be a lot.
That's
That
a
would be-
lot of rate
that would
hikes
be
in the short.
8 rate hikes, assuming they do
If they do a quarter
0.25
point,
a quarter point
in a
each time.
short period of time, right? That's a lot of rate hikes, right? You're still in the short end, meaning the U.S. Treasury T-bill, et cetera, maybe at 2%, right? That is literally very, very small return in your portfolio, right? So people are still going to say, if I can find a good value stock, right, that is yielding, has a dividend yield of about 2, 3, or 4%, well, why would I buy a 3-month Treasury bill, right?
Exactly. Why would I do?
So the stock market in itself still has a lot of impetus because the yields in bond market is still so low that people say, I need more income, and how do I find income? And granted, there are ways to find income, but most people, just from a perspective of either I buy a bond or I buy a stock.
You don't go to stock,
right?
because you can't find the yield
So
you need in bond.
the key, takeaway here is you can't panic. You can't just say inflation's out of hand, therefore I'm selling everything, because what do? If you put your money in cash and inflation's at 7.5%, you're losing 7.5% every single year, right? So you have to think about that, right? Is that something I'm willing to do, or do I stay in the market and yes, I'm going to have my, take my lumps for a short period of time, but over a longer period of time, meaning the next 2 or 3 years,
You'll participate in the upside.
if you get a market return like we've seen in the past, you're going to be happy that you didn't sell.
Exactly. And I think it's keeping in mind, I think there's a temptation. The issue is we receive knowledge as individuals, and we receive information and then go act on it. But the issue is the market, because it has so many individuals in it. The market, the price you see in the market today is not reflecting information unless it's a shock, unless it's purely unknown thing, like a war suddenly starts, or someone blows up a building or something that's completely unexpected.
Yeah.
If we're talking economic information that filters through, the market has so many participants that this information is filtered in already. In other words, yes, was there a 7% inflation, 7.5% inflation number today? Yes, there was. But the market saw 9% PPI a month ago. We saw 9% PPI a month ago. And so the market was already pricing in, okay, if PPI is 9, then CPI is going to have to go up. In other words, if producers are seeing higher prices, they're going to pass that on. So in other words, the market is absorbing this information, reflecting it in the price, right? So you can't look ahead to future rate hikes and say, because the Fed will raise rates might raise rates in a month, the market will go down. No, the market knows that the Fed may raise rates in a month. It has already gone down.
It's already baked in there.
Of that. So it's very difficult. That's why we always say don't try to market time, because it's very difficult for you as an individual to get ahead of the market. Because you're essentially, what you're trying to do is saying, I have access to information, and I am the only one out of billions of people in the market who has figured this out. And the odds of that being the case are very low. There's a good chance that the billion participants in the market have come to a conclusion on price before you as an individual come to your conclusion on price.
That's right. And so there's two things. So and you're talking about, the market knows. I mean, the market was expecting 7.3%. I mean, they got 7.5. So of course it's like, wow. I mean, we got more than expected. But that's a very small percentage increase over the 7.3, right? Second of all, I mean, the only way, in the marketplace, the only way to really someday make tons of money, if you're willing to risk it, is to be a contrarian. In other words, say, I don't believe in inflation. I think inflation is going to 2%, and it's going to happen next year. Therefore, I'm going all in this particular sector, right? You want to do that, it's fine. Those are contrarians, people. But you're right.
You need to be prepared to lose a lot.
More before you win, if you ever win. Yeah. I mean, listen, I've been in this a long time, and I know some hedge fund managers that for years and years and years got it wrong, and then all of a sudden, boom, they make a huge 1 year, and vice versa. So, and these guys are supposed to be extremely intelligent in the marketplace, right? But like you said, there's just so many players in the market, and if the majority of players are moving in one direction, it's like a freight train. No matter which way, if that freight train is going forward and you're trying to go backwards, you can't beat it. It's just as simple as that.
Exactly. And Nicholas has a question. He says, does Xavier believe that core inflation is rising primarily as a result of rising cost of energy, so transportation cost, or does he believe it's a combination of rising transportation costs with prices rising of their own accord? In other words, shortage of things that are pushing up the price of these goods regardless of energy costs.
Yeah. So without any doubt, I mean, energy is a large impact on everything we do, right? And energy has, I mean, you look at the price of oil, it continues to go up, right? So you would expect that we're going to continue to see that kind of pressure on the fact that, goods have to be, I mean, we're looking at the trucking situation, right? Goods have to be taken from place A to place B, and there's a cost there, right? We're also seeing the supply chain that hasn't disappeared yet. It will,
Supply chain
right?
issue.
Exactly, supply chain issue. That hasn't disappeared yet. It will, but as long as it's still here, right? As long as we can't get the products to the shelves in time, we're still going to see that type of inflation. So, the issue with inflation is sometimes that it catches fire, and we've talked about this. It perpetuates itself, and so you keep going up to the point where it's like it dies down, right?
Yep.
And so we don't know when that's going to be, right? So it's here. I think it's going to last a lot longer than anybody ever expected, especially the Fed, right? But again, from a perspective of the marketplace, you can't jump ship and say, because of inflation, I need to get out. Because in essence, during inflationary cycles, sometimes the stock market does extremely well. So you want to be in it, all right? Because let's face it, the earnings of these companies, if they start raising prices, they're still going to be good. And you're sitting in the background saying, I'm not in it because I thought they were going to have a bad quarter or a bad year, and you lose out.
Fantastic. No, great advice.
And it's just
something, we wanted tips to get across to make sure that you respond to this in a rational manner and try to not be tempted to leave the market and just stay in cash.
Use that other side of the brain instead of the creative side of the brain.
There you go. Both sides of the brain.
That's right.
Both sides of the brain. Thanks to Melody Robbins for watching the show today. Appreciate it. Just had a really great time today.
Oh, I did too.
I say that every week. But
and
this was fantastic. Rosalia Trodaro is watching as well. Thank you, Leah, for watching the show today. Just always love being on here with you. I mean, always love the fantastic guests that we have on. And
it's amazing.
The energy that they bring and the talent that they have in Charlottesville is just amazing.
Unbelievable. Like I said, we learn something new every week, and today we learned something new again. So it's great. My portfolio keeps growing in knowledge.
There you go.
It was kind of shallow, but it's getting better every Thursday.
Knowledge is growing, to be sure. And next we've got some more exciting guests. We're going to have Carrie Estes from Carrie Marie Designs, as well as Good Times Creative.
Oh, wow.
So another company with creative. There you go.
That's right.
And there's so many creative people in Charlottesville. What can we say? It's fantastic. I just really appreciate being on the I Love CVille set. Thank you, Judah, behind the camera, working with multiple guests today. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate our partners, GBS Financial Services, Tassel Hill Cider, Vitae Spirits, Aqua CVille Hand Car Wash, and Serious Tragic Insurance. Of course, always love being presented by Emergent Financial Services, as we are, being here on the I Love CVille Network, and just all of you, our audience, for just your questions, your participation. The fact that you watch us and you like and share the show really means a lot. Be sure to let us know any other guests you want us to have on, any questions, comments you have about today's show. Send them to us, and we will be happy to talk about them, to engage with you, and so forth. Just really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you all next week. But until that time, hasta mañana.